Nico, go ahead and kick us off. And there's Wormhole. Our co-host has accepted our invitation. Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday.
Oh, right.
Morning, everyone.
Happy Friday, everybody. Oh, good. Yeah, you're sounding good, Brian. Sound great, Anthony.
Awesome.
Gosh, everybody, welcome. Everybody, happy Friday. It's such an honor and a pleasure to be our host today for this incredible tea space. Wow, what an amazing group. We are kicking off, just an incredible call today with Wormhole and the Threshold Network. And I'm so excited to welcome Matt Luongo, MacLane Wilkison, Brian Mahoney, and Dan and Anthony from Wormhole. We have just such an incredible group with highly capable people on the call today. And you've all got such an incredible array of blockchain experience. I thought the best way to kick off this call would just be to hand the mic over. And I'd ask you guys to just kind of go around the table real quick and give us a brief introduction.
Yeah, sure. And I can start us off.
Start with you, Matt. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'll go. Hi, everyone. Good to be here. My name is Brian, and I lead the growth and business development efforts for tBTC. Excited to be here.
Hey, guys. Matt Luongo. I was one of the authors of tBTC V1 and a co-author for V2. Really excited to talk about bringing Bitcoin everywhere.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining. I am MacLane Wilkison. I am a contributor to Threshold and one of the co-founders of the new Cypher, which was, along with Keep, one of the parent projects to Threshold.
Hey guys, I'm Anthony. I've been working on Wormhole for 2 years and pretty much do a lot of stuff across like BD, ops, strategy type things. And yeah, super excited to talk about all this today.
Hey guys, Dan Reecer from Wormhole Foundation. Work quite a bit on operations as well, like Anthony, and other sort of growth initiatives. I've been great working with the Threshold team, and really exciting week, and excited to kind of get into the details here.
Incredible. Welcome everybody to the stage. And for everybody on the call today, I thought it would be nice to just do, kind of a brief overview of our two projects that are joining the call today. And, Matt and MacLane, if you could just kind of give us just a brief overview of what is the Threshold Network?
Yeah, sure. So Threshold is it's a combination of two teams, years of effort in two communities. So originally, it was the Keep Network and New Cypher projects, which were both Threshold Cryptography projects on Ethereum. And last year, we actually came together and created one sort of like canonical Threshold crypto utility for devs, and that's the Threshold Network. Threshold is the technology behind tBTC, as well as condition-based decryption and a couple other really cool things that you guys will be hearing coming out over the coming weeks. And so I'm here mostly to rep tBTC, and MacLane can talk a lot more about sort of like the other side of the house.
Yeah, I think that was a good overview. New Cypher and Keep, I think officially on-chain merged beginning of last year. So if you had new tokens or Keep tokens, you were able to, and still are able to, upgrade those into T tokens, which is the governance and work token and staking token for Threshold Network.
Excellent. Yeah, and Dan and Anthony, if you could just kind of walk us through briefly about Wormhole. Let us know a little bit more about it.
Yeah, this is I'm wrapping up my 5th week, so I'm going to hand it over to Anthony to hear how he pitches everyone on Wormhole.
You're in the hot seat, Anthony.
Yeah, all right. I think Dan has probably done more Twitter Spaces and crowd engagement things than like anybody, and all of the people in this Twitter space could combine. So he's underselling, but But yeah, so Wormhole, it's been, it's an interoperability protocol. It's been around since 2021, and really I think it's actually the longest running interoperability protocol at this point. And so the main things to know is that it's kind of its North Star is to be the backbone of the Internet of Value, and that means a lot of different things. But the most important thing that it means to me is that it facilitates the interchain connectivity of data, of value, of everything that you and then builders want to do cross chain. And I think it's particularly relevant today for this topic because Bitcoin is a blockchain, but it's a tough one. You can't really connect it in a normal way like you can with Ethereum and other EVM chains, because but it's also like a product. So the BTC token is such an important token to so many people, and folk want to be able to use it in on-chain DeFi. They want to hold it, and they also want to make it productive. And I look at what tBTC is doing is just such an important primitive to make it actually decentralized on chain, so people can not rely on something like a WBTC from BitGo, but they can hold something that's actually decentralized, and then they can make use of it anywhere. So when we at Wormhole were looking to partner with a Bitcoin kind of wrapper provider, I mean, there really was no other option. And we thought these guys are the best team that's out there. We kind of see the vision for what they're going for. And we're excited to be along. So we can get into a lot more detail here, but the idea is for something like a tBTC, Wormhole wants to be the basically the way that it goes everywhere and it gets into the hands of everybody in the most secure and just kind of high high quality UX that you can do it. So we can get to a lot more detail, but that's kind of where we're here today.
Excellent. No, I love that. Just a high level kickoff, but it really does bring me kind of into our first topic. Given that Bitcoin really is the OG chain, it's ultimately kind of what brought, I guess, everyone into really the industry. I kind of wanted to just start off with Matt. You've been a long-term crypto builder. I'm really curious, what is it about Bitcoin that really got you started in crypto? Kind of inspired you?
Yeah, sure. Well, I kind of found Bitcoin the hard way, right? Which is I was deplatformed back in 2013. I was running a small side business, and it involved buying and selling gift cards, and volume started increasing, and PayPal was like, oh, gift cards. Oh, no, that's great finance. And so, the reason I got involved with Bitcoin in the first place, it wasn't because of my right-leaning economic thinker or anything like that. It was just because everyone else shut me down. And so I discovered Bitcoin as a credibly neutral alternative to PayPal at the time. And so, even though I actually do buy into a bunch of the economic thinking around Bitcoin, and there's a good discussion there, really what stuck with me in this space and the reason that I've kept here is, people should be able to use their property however they see fit, right? And that's something that we need to defend with math. And that's what I loved about Bitcoin back in 2013. And really, that's what I love about what we're doing with tBTC and Wormhole today, is we're taking folks who have kind of relegated this hugely important technology as their sort of spare change or savings account. And we're going to give them a chance to actually use it to do things like take out a mortgage, and really have it be a lot more impactful in their lives.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible.
I'll just jump in with a comment there on your story, Matt. The great irony is that PayPal now is, they just disclosed $1 billion or just about $1 billion in ETH and Bitcoin holdings in Q1. Come full circle.
Yep. I mean,
exactly.
First they fight you, right? And so I think we're getting to that point now where a lot of folks that in the past saw themselves as competitors, either because they were payment systems, that was an acceptable thing to call Bitcoin back in 2013, though we know that that's not really what it is today. But, all of these folks who were once competitors have sort of realized, you need to embrace. And I think now we're at this stage where it's what's our final boss? Is it this regulatory shift in the US? Is it a recession? What is it? So that's what gets me excited. And yeah.
That's absolutely incredible. It is. It is amazing to see a lot of this come full circle in what are short years, right? In normal terms, but in blockchain years, they're really highly accelerated. Um, I wanted to move back over to MacLane, and I've actually had the pleasure of hearing you speak on this topic. But I'm mostly curious to ask. You originally got started with a group of crypto builders you met early on, and just wanted to ask if you could kind of speak on that a little bit on how you co-founded New Cipher and the early beginnings. Was it a similar fascination with Bitcoin? I guess is how I'd frame the question.
Sure. So I got into Bitcoin and crypto more broadly. Gosh, I guess it's been almost 10 years now, but I was co-working out of a hackerspace called Hacker Dojo in the Bay Area, and there was a meetup space there. I just randomly happened to drop into the SF Bitcoin Devs user group. There were, I think, like 5 or 6 of us in that meetup. It was me, Michael Agorov, who co-founded New Cipher and later Curve with, one of the early co-founders of the Affinity, Tom Ding, Zucky Manian, who was one of the major early contributors to the Cosmos ecosystem. And so, I mean, looking back, it obviously was like super lucky to just fall in with that group of people early on. And Michael and I in particular just started just hacking on a bunch of like random stuff in Bitcoin. This was pre-Ethereum, so like at the time, like the hot thing was like Counterparty and Mastercoin, and we just wanted to understand like one, like what can we beyond obviously just like digital money, which and digital gold, which is obviously a very obvious use case. What other things can we use Bitcoin and blockchain technology to do? And that was sort of our exploration with Counterparty and Mastercoin, which I guess you could, for people who aren't familiar, which is fair because this was a long time ago. These are kind of like, I don't know, maybe you could describe them as early precursors to Ethereum in an attempt to add some functionality onto the Bitcoin blockchain. We ended up starting New Cipher together. Obviously, I'm skipping over a lot of details and complexity and sort of winding roads of searching through the forest for something interesting to build. And New Cipher was, or I guess as Threshold now is, a Threshold cryptography network. The primary technology we were working on was proxy re-encryption, which was a form of Threshold cryptography more broadly. And obviously that, eventually ended up to where we are today with Threshold Network and tBTC.
Been an incredible journey, and I enjoy being a contributor along this path. I mean, it's just really amazing to see the community that's been building as well in the background with all this. So very cool. Moving over, Dan, Anthony, and Brian. I've had the pleasure of joining you before, Dan, but I would love for you to just sort of share your crypto journey with our audience. Tell us everything leading up to Wormhole, and what kind of brought us all together today.
Yeah, I guess the quick explanation is I first discovered Bitcoin in a class at Indiana University back in 2013, where they were teaching us about Bitcoin and the deep web and everything, and I went deep back then and just kind of kept it as a hobby for about 4 years before coming full-time into crypto. And now that I'm at Wormhole, kind of like this common thread that has come through 3 out of the 4 projects that I've worked on in crypto has been interoperability. So the first team I joined was WanChain, one of the earlier like 2017 era interoperability platforms. And that was kind of my foray into the industry and what led me to wanting to work on Polkadot. So I went to the Web3 Foundation and worked on Polkadot for a couple years, and that led me to Akala, which is a team building on top of Polkadot, focusing on DeFi. So I spent about 2.5 years at Akala leading their growth team, and through that process, actually worked with Anthony on an integration with Akala and Wormhole. So got to know a lot of the people on the Wormhole team, knew that they were a super strong team and people that I like. And that just kind of naturally progressed into conversations about a role with them, which just started, like I said, last month. So I'm really excited to be on the Wormhole team, and it's been kind of mind-blowing, honestly, because I was in the Polkadot ecosystem for 4 years, and now seeing the industry from a different lens has been like really, really fascinating, honestly. And Polkadot, like trying to solve this interoperability problem, is doing a good job and provides security for those blockchains. But what Wormhole is it actually is providing interoperability for the entire crypto ecosystem versus just one sub ecosystem. So yeah, just really excited for the opportunity that we have at Wormhole to basically connect all of crypto and working with partners like tBTC to help grow your product and grow your user base. So that's my story.
Yeah, I'll jump in with a quick one, but I've been kind of obsessed with crypto since like 2015. So like it's funny talking to people who are like a couple of years earlier than me on that. But I'm in BD and marketing and like sales and ops and all this kind of stuff. And so like there wasn't actually a lot to do in crypto for a long time. Like if you weren't an engineer or a product person or building. And really just like the second I had the opportunity to get in the industry and start working in it, like professionally, I did. Before that, I was mostly just like airdrop hunting and like trading and doing all this kind of stuff. So I've been working on Wormhole for about 2.5 years or 2 years now. And like I think what Dan said is just like exactly like how I feel about it, which is like it's such a big and ambitious project, and it's trying to cover so much ground, and there's so much layers to it, right? Like it's not just one product or one thing that we're trying to do. It's kind of everything. And really like I think the key of that is like partnering with like great ecosystem, great teams, great founders. And so that's what kind of leads us here today. So I'll wrap with that.
Yeah, and just quickly on my background, I've been full-time in the space since 2016, really sort of operating at the intersection of CeFi, DeFi, mostly focused on the last few companies and even with tBTC is bringing more and more capital on chain, right? So I see tBTC is just a great vehicle to do that, powered by Wormhole. And I think we have some big vision here to execute on. And I'm very excited about sort of what the next stage of this is.
Incredible. A lot of amazing experience on the panel today. I love your history of Polkadot. I kind of recall running into the Polkadot party, I guess, around that time. I don't know if you ever made it out to Ibiza, Dan, but
I wasn't there that early. I think that was like one of the first Polkadot meetups ever.
Man, I was jealous when I saw that.
Was that like ICO days or pre 2017 even?
Yeah, it was. But they had the foresight to document all that. So there's like there's documentaries on YouTube going back and showing that actual meetup, which is kind of cool.
Awesome. I love that.
Yeah, it's definitely worth a look. And again, yeah, they're almost like light years, or I call them dog years. Sometimes it's 1 year in crypto is about 7 to 10 years anywhere else. So thank you guys for that. Speaking of history, I just wanted to kind of throw this out to everybody on the panel. I'd love to start off with just a bit of tBTC's history and really kind of spin it back to the actual topic at hand, if anybody wants to take that one away.
Yeah, sure. Let's see. So, back in the day, gosh, crypto makes you feel so old so quickly. This was not that long ago. So we first started work on tBTC in 2019. And the first version of tBTC, which launched in 2020, the idea was that for every Bitcoin that needed to be deposited. So for every Bitcoin that people, you could call it bridging or whatever. It's a little weird because it doesn't really work like a bridge, like other chains. But for every Bitcoin that a person wanted to put onto Ethereum, stakers would have to then put down ETH to cover it. And the reason is that Bitcoin is old. Obviously, it's it's like it's the king, it's the first, etc. But it's also old. The technology has been around for a long time, and really the focus for Bitcoin development, it's on ossification, preventing bugs, and slowly refactoring a legacy, in my opinion, C++ client, right? Like it's performant, it's great, but it's also a huge mess. It's difficult to work with. So because of that, it's very hard to bridge Bitcoin anywhere. Bitcoin isn't aware of Ethereum or Solana or Sui or any of these chains. It has no idea how they work. And so, you can bridge one way fairly easily, but it's quite difficult to bridge the other direction. And in a sense, it's almost impossible, right? You have to just come up with the next closest. The next closest we came up with V1 was for every Bitcoin that people want to put on Ethereum, someone else needs to also put down ETH. And so that led to this system that worked. It worked for quite a while. It grew to around 2,000 BTC under custody and tBTC V1. But very capital inefficient, right? So when you're competing with DeFi and ETH staking yields, the fees have to be extraordinary to ask people to lock up that much ETH. And when we launched tBTC V1, it was around the same time ETH staking started. And so, it got really tight and everyone wanted to stake. And anyway, so it was a great learning experience for us as a team because we came up with something that was sort of like mathematically, like quote unquote, perfect, right? Like, this is the best you can do. This is the strongest you can do. But the market didn't make sense in the market context. So that was V1. And what we've been doing since then is building out this system V2. And which I cannot wait to just refer to it as tBTC and stop even talking about this V1, V2 thing. But since you asked history, and the idea with V2 is taking all the learnings that we got from V1, and one of them was, if you can't ask people to put down collateral, if it's too expensive to ask people to put down collateral, how can you possibly trust a permissionless set of signers to custody Bitcoin, right? If you met someone on the street, would you trust them to custody your Bitcoin? And, that obviously I think most of us would say no. But if you met 100 people on the street and each of them were given, 1/100th of the power to move your Bitcoin, would you trust all of them, to be honest? Probably, most places. And so that's the core insight behind V2 is to make it more capital efficient. We just involved way, way more signers. tBTC V1, every deposit had a 3 of 3. And now in V2, every deposit is going into a 51 of 100 threshold ECDSA wallet. So on the tech side, that's what tBTC V2 is about. Another big difference from V1 and where we are today is that we're rolling out a lot more, just a lot more, I guess I want to say cautiously, instead of saying, hey, here's how the system works up front, it's going to be perfect and work this way forever, which, sounds good. Minimizing governance is like, it's a really strong meme, and it's what we did with V1. There was something like 3 governable function calls. But with V2, what we've done instead is we've said, okay, how can we make sure that custody is decentralized from day one, but we can slowly solidify this project so that, if the market changes or if Bitcoin hard forks or if gas does something different than we expect, we're ready for that. And so that's V2. So, that's why we're so excited now that it's finally out. It's taken years of effort to have this opportunity to kind of go as quickly as possible. Okay, V2 exists. It's getting stronger every day. It's getting more battle tested every day. Now, can we make sure that people can use Bitcoin on Solana, on Arbitrum, on Polygon? And yeah, so that's what led us here, and that's why we were working closely with Wormhole here.
It's such an incredible journey, and like you said, it does kind of make you feel old at times. You're looking back. I remember some of the early days. I was so fortunate to be involved in the test net, and just a lot of fun that was really had in the community with that. So very cool. I want to stay on this thread. And, absolutely mentioning it, really was optimistic minting launched in February. And it's incredible to see it being accelerated with the integration with Wormhole. I just wanted to kind of shift the conversation back to you, Dan and Anthony, and ask, what is it about tBTC, and really the contributor team at Threshold? What is it that really got you guys so excited?
I'll take a stab, and then Dan, feel free to jump in. But I feel like my first answer kind of got into this one a little bit, but yeah, I mean, like for many reasons, like Bitcoin's important, and I think Matt already just hit like a huge number of them, right? Like people want to hold it, they want to use it. There's limited options today, and most of the options are centralized, and that's really the main kind of thing there. The other piece is that as Wormhole, we're connected to 20-something different blockchains, and we talk to builders and founders on all these blockchains every day. And we've seen bad outcomes from bad solutions out there. So, like for example, the FTX Bitcoin that was on the Solana blockchain, that clearly was adverse to the whole ecosystem, to everyone that's building there. And I think to the extent that we can partner with a great Bitcoin provider, like who does the actual wrapping of Bitcoin well, that's already a huge amount of the way there. It's not a trivial problem to solve at all, like as you just heard Matt describe. And then I think on the distribution method, that's means like that's the opportunity that we see, and what gets us so excited is that everywhere we go, people want Bitcoin, and they want a fungible Bitcoin. They want one that doesn't have like so many complications. They want a native feeling Bitcoin to their ecosystem. And I think that's what Wormhole can deliver when it's partnering with a team like the Threshold team and the Thesis team. And so for us, like, we're excited about democratizing access to value. And really, like, I think Wormhole, like, it's not obvious to people that are building on Ethereum, just L1, because everything's been kind of launched there. But like outside of that, that's not the case. It's a little bit of a different world. And I think the more that you can bring great assets like tBTC and great go-to-market strategies to where like it can actually get in the hands of people, that there actually will be liquidity and use cases, like it gets you excited. So that's what brought us to kind of make that proposal and kind of partner with the Threshold team, and then like the other components of this that are needed to make it kind of successful. So in general, like, I think our position is that we want to partner with great teams, and we want to back great products, and we want to throw a lot of weight behind them. So that's kind of like what brought us here today.
Yeah, and I'll just add, I got brought into this kind of integration along with the Threshold team, and it's just behind the scenes. It's been really just impressive, honestly, to work with Brian and the rest of the team. Like the professionalism, like we all worked fast, spent a lot of hours on this project, and I think got a great result from the initial announcement this week, which leads me to my second point. Wormhole, like Anthony was kind of mentioning, is a messaging layer that isn't really meant to be felt by anyone at the application layer, like users. And the reason why we're excited about this is because we're solving an unmet need on a lot of these chains, and it was very apparent even in the teaser video that we posted that went like kind of crazy this week. But what that told me is like we're actually solving a really big problem, and tBTC is solving a really big problem with the product that you guys have built. So clearly a lot of people, like, shout out to the Solana ecosystem, like they were pretty loud around this, and then there's a lot of people in the Ethereum ecosystems and elsewhere that are excited for tBTC to make it to their chains to start using. So yeah, overall great experience working with the team so far.
Likewise on our
side.
Go ahead, Nico. Sorry.
Oh, no. Please. Yeah.
I was just going to say, likewise, it's been awesome working with the Wormhole Foundation and team so far, from the Threshold and tBTC side. I guess sort of the way I would think about, Bitcoin on DeFi and how tBTC fits in is, really this opportunity to sort of blitz scale cross chain, in 20 different places, right, is a phenomenal opportunity to bring Bitcoin to all, and, enabling native use cases on these chains, right? In terms of, DeFi use cases, borrowing, lending, trading, other types of ways to put your Bitcoin to work in a true one-to-one fashion is, sort of second to none in terms of the other options in the space. So That's one of the things that I personally am most excited about is unlocking that sort of massive avalanche of capital that the top market, which is the Bitcoin asset category in crypto, right, and bringing that to the rest of DeFi in a sort of true way that doesn't sacrifice on decentralization. That's one of the things that we're most excited about.
Incredible. Yeah, no, I had to just, kind of hand it back to Anthony and Dan. Your proposal was so well written. One of the things I love most about the blockchain community is just the access that we have to the information. So, I really commend you guys. Such clarity and, such a concise proposal that you've put together. So, I think that really led to some of the excitement with the big announcement yesterday.
I think it was well received so far, and we're just getting started.
Yeah, it's easy. It's very easy to get sucked into the wormhole. I love your graphics. I love your website.
Yeah, the video. We're very excited about the video. That's for sure.
Incredible. And yeah, Brian, you really you kind of hopped into my next question, and I'm glad we did. You got a chance to really talk about Bitcoin and DeFi, and I throw this out to everybody on the panel. Really, where can this lead? What is it in your perspective that you kind of see?
I'll leave it for some. Bitcoin hop in.
Yeah. So I think a lot of this has been hit on a couple times already, but Bitcoin is still by a significant margin the largest crypto asset. I think maybe today it's probably slightly below 50% Bitcoin dominance, and just the amount of that has been captured into DeFi is minuscule right now. I think I tweeted a few weeks ago, if tBTC can capture just 5% of Bitcoin bridged into DeFi, that makes tBTC an order of magnitude bigger than all the rest of the bridges combined, just to give you sort of an idea of the scale of why Bitcoin is an important asset to really bring into DeFi. And I think the goal for tBTC, of course, is it would be, I think, a failure, not just for us, but for the entire ecosystem if 5 years from now we're all still just using wrapped Bitcoin. I think we've seen over the past year why this is just not an acceptable approach. Credit to them, they built a great product, and I think they're far more, it's far more robust of a bridge and an asset than say Ren BTC and the FTX version on Solana that effectively totally failed. But it would be just a tragedy from my perspective if we're all still just using this essentially centralized wrapper on top of Bitcoin. That is one, just a solution for the users of that asset, and two, it's a bad situation for DeFi in general. That's a pretty significant systemic risk. So I think ultimately, obviously, we want to have tBTC be the de facto Bitcoin on Ethereum and everywhere else via Wormhole, and obviously just make the entire DeFi ecosystem much more robust, and not only just replace wrapped Bitcoin in the medium term, but hopefully as well just be able to pull over a lot of Bitcoin that's never bridged from the native Bitcoin blockchain into DeFi as well, by giving them a solution that is sufficiently censorship resistant, decentralized, and sovereign. Whereas previous solutions were just a non-starter for, let's say, the hardcore Bitcoiners.
Well said. That's an incredible framework. Yeah, no, and please, Matt, please add to that. Yeah, that's such an incredible framework that less than 5% out of the total supply. It's incredible.
Yeah, I was just going to say, by the way, I just realized on the Thesis account, so, sorry guys. But yeah, I was just going to say that I was talking to a founder the other day who, I'll try to not dox, but her background, she started a bank. She's done some pretty incredible things that most like typical Silicon Valley startup people just do not have the stomach or the grind for. And she's getting in the space, and her interest is like, okay, well, how can we actually get more participation from institutions on the Bitcoin side? And her take was, well, right now they can buy Bitcoin and then what, right? It's just a weight on their balance sheet. They can't earn yield on it. They can't leverage it. And I thought that was so interesting because, before the FTX blow up, I would say, oh yeah, we have a pretty robust lending market for Bitcoin. And now they're all wiped out. And I think the premise of DeFi and tBTC is to make sure that people can enter the space and be confident in incredibly neutral rails that won't be wiped out next time, next time we get SBF'd or something, right? So I really think in the shadow of FTX's failure, I'm even more bullish because now all these desks and funds have now gotten a taste of like, not your keys, not your coins. And I think that, I don't know. I think it's just, there's just like a clear market suck for something stronger.
Yeah, that's a great point, Matt. In hindsight, I guess short-term pain, long-term gain, right? There's a lot of, painful experiences coming out of the sort of the FTX fallout, but ultimately it's been a boon for decentralization, and I think has unlocked deeper conviction across the ecosystem for products like tBTC.
That's absolutely a great lead-in, Brian. And, there really is a lot of, just evolving roles within the DeFi landscape. I asked this to you, but of course the entire panel, I'd love to throw that out to. What are some other potential use cases that you see?
I think in terms of our focus right now is really establishing sort of the core, call them like financial use cases or utility-based use cases. So, getting a foothold on decentralized exchanges and sort of ensuring the flow and volumes behind, the depth and breadth behind tBTC is established so that, folks can use it in a way in their sort of day-to-day activities in DeFi. Also enhancing like borrowing and lending capabilities. So rolling it out in various markets across these different chains is super important. That helps sort of grow the flywheel. And then sort of thirdly, partnering with other platforms that establish, other use cases around sort of the borrowing markets like derivatives and such. But we're not driving these personally, to be clear. It's a collaborative effort across all of these different ecosystems. And, our goal at the core is just kind of getting tBTC out there, right, as much as we can and making it available for folks to sort of build on top of, and using sort of Wormhole's bridging layer as the driver of that. I don't know if anyone else wants to jump in on additional use cases.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, like the obvious short-term ones that you would do in DeFi with any asset. So LPing, lending, borrowing. There's a group of Threshold contributors working on something called Threshold USD, which is a fork of Liquidity and LUSD, but with Bitcoin as collateral. So essentially, a Bitcoin-backed stablecoin. And I think there's also some interesting extensions to the bridge itself that someone like Matt might be better positioned to speak on. But like obviously Bitcoin has become fun again. So you have ordinals, and I think it wouldn't be too much of a leap to extend the tBTC bridge so that you could bridge over Taproot wizards and trade them on something like OpenSea.
Yeah, spot on. Actually, if you want to nerd out and you're a wizard yourself, we have an RFC up, RFC 8 for tBTC, which is extending the tBTC sort of like, I hesitate to even call it a bridge because we're so focused on Bitcoin, but to actually like bring over ordinals and inscriptions from the Bitcoin chain. Similarly, the same RFC can actually be pretty trivially changed to start bridging BRC20s, which is a terrible name for a Bitcoin token standard, but here we are. So I'm really excited to see like if you could imagine people actually take their Bitcoin to Ethereum, or again, just anywhere to Solana, to Sui, to Arbitrum or Poly, and they take a loan out against it. And if they want, they could even take, the stable or whatever else they get from that back to the Bitcoin chain. And so I think we're finally welcoming the Bitcoin network fully into the rest of the crypto ecosystem. Anyway, it's going to get real weird, right? Like meme coins launching on Bitcoin. It's not something I've seen since 2014. So things are going to get weird, but we're going to be there to give people the infrastructure, be it like a stable coin on Bitcoin or Pepe. I don't know, whatever weird thing Bitcoiners can dream up next.
Matt, you always have a way of coining these phrases, and I love the one you threw out today, getting SBF'd. But I kind of lead that into some of the challenges that we're facing, and really, I'll lead this back, of course, to our wormhole guests, but in general for the panel, what are some of the challenges that we're facing when bridging assets across chains? In light of how tBTC integration really addresses them. And anybody can dive in on that one.
The crickets. Well, I'll say, as far as how we wanted to work with Wormhole, we have another RFC. We like RFCs. And the goal really was liquidity shouldn't be fragmented. So I know a lot of folks will try to go, frankly, off of Ethereum, right? That's where most people are. That's kind of where a lot of them start their journey, and then they go and they try to use a bridge, and then they land on whatever their other chain is, and then there are like 10 different versions of the same asset. It's incredibly confusing. It's bad for consumers. The chance of a hack goes way up when people just get used to having to look at the same, different versions of the same token. Eventually, you're going to slip up, and you're going to use the scam token. So our goal on the tBTC side with Wormhole was to make sure that we could have a canonical asset on every chain. We don't want there to be 3 tBTCs, every time we expand the ecosystem. So that was really important to us. And I think the other piece that we got excited about, specific, very specific to Wormhole, is just this opportunity to, it's hard to watch 20 plus chains and to monitor them for security, for trends, for any of these things. And I just think the expertise on the Wormhole side, they've been through the fire, and they know they have a team that knows actually how to deal with this stuff. So I think that is those really drew us to Wormhole. But I'd also say that any new asset provider that's looking to bridge needs to consider this liquidity fragmentation and sort of like the ops that modern cross-chain security requires.
How does the Threshold network, really ensure that tBTC remains safe? I wanted to just keep the security conversation going a little bit. Yeah.
Great question. So the way that we've done this is, you can only, the key idea with tBTC is like one Bitcoin. There always needs to be one Bitcoin behind every one tBTC or more. And so, on L1, specifically on Ethereum, what that means is, making sure that for every deposit, Bitcoin actually moved. It moved into a decentralized custodial wallet, and then that you don't mint tBTC before that happens, right? That you're very confident. But when you actually expand that to many chains, it's quite difficult, right? Because when you expand to many chains, and I'm going to get a little nerdy here, you have consensus on one chain, but you don't have consensus across all of these chains. They don't all have shared state, and that's exactly what Wormhole and other people in the space. That's kind of the problem they're trying to solve, right? It's a UX problem, it's a user problem, it's an understanding problem, but it's also like, well, these chains don't agree on reality, and we still have to find a way for value to move and be safe. And so what I like about this approach that we've taken together is that, if there's ever a chain specific issue, tBTC as a whole is fine. So if some chain has a hard fork, or has like a consensus instability or something like that, like every new chain you add increases the likelihood of that happening. Of course it's going to happen because you just launched a new chain from your basement. That's eventually there will be a bug. And what's great about this approach is issues can be limited. So instead of every tBTC holder having to take on the risk of every chain that's involved, the idea is this has been built so that if a chain ever has an issue, immediately bridging can be stopped. Now, if you're on Ethereum L1, you're good. You can always go back to Bitcoin and whatnot. And once these other chains come online and get closer to native, that'll be the case for them too. But it's just a balancing act, right? Where we want to make sure that the Bitcoin supply behind tBTC is the most important piece of the whole system. And we just need to make sure that it's sacrosanct. And so that's the balance that I think we've landed with the security model.
Incredible. And I lead this question in a similar fashion to the Wormhole team. I'm just curious how you ensure, similar security and reliability.
Yeah, happy to take this one. In bridging, security is like kind of the holy grail, right? I mean, it's everyone knows about like the challenge of that problem, and then why it's like just like there's just tons of examples over the last 2 years of this being like something that is a very hard problem to solve, right? And we take that insanely seriously, at Wormhole and the contributors that kind of work on this problem. So we have a number of different solutions, right? Like I a while ago I put it like we think about this in defense in depth. We want a lot of bad things to have to happen in order for something to actually go wrong. You need to be able to basically ensure that like from many different angles, like you have to kind of break through a lot of different things to have any kind of problems. But the investment in security is massive. We've had, I want to say it's got to be 20 or 30 different audits at this point. And we have everything, audited all the time. This is a muscle that we've built over the last 2-3 years. Every new chain that we add, that's fully audited. It's reviewed internally. We have primitives that are built on the token bridge itself, the piece of infrastructure that tBTC relies on, so that like there's constant monitoring of all the global state of all the chains that Wormhole's connected to, and that the second that there's anything wrong, like we basically have the ability to disconnect that chain from the network or take the action that's appropriate for that situation. So security is just it's a problem that is a very interdisciplinary, like multidisciplinary kind of you have to take an approach like that to really do it. And I think with Wormhole, like we have some of the best security minds in the world that contribute from all the different entities that like contribute to the Wormhole network. So we leverage the expertise, we leverage the engineering solutions, we leverage security experts that we commission to kind of do audits. So we think about it for tBTC like specifically, but we also think about it just for the Wormhole network generally. And I think like we've made a pretty large investment in security, and then that's not slowed down at all. It's only picked up. Long term, I'll just say that today like I don't know who's familiar kind of with Wormhole's architecture, but there's 19 guardians that are like like some of the world's best node operators that kind of like manage the the state attestation across the different chains that Wormhole's connected to. Long term, like we're deeply investing in zero knowledge technology, so that essentially like you don't even need these validators to have to kind of trust them. You're just going to have the chains like basically producing state proofs and that will be rolled up into other chains. So like it's solved a lot of different fronts. But like security is like every single thing we do like has a huge focus of security on it.
Incredible. And that does kind of lead me in, with the growing popularity really of all these layer 2 solutions and side chains. You tapped on long term, and I'm just curious, and of course this I'll throw out to the panel in general, but I'm really curious your thoughts on how tBTC and the Threshold network and Wormhole essentially are going to be adapting to all the developments that are coming.
Well, I'll say on the tBTC side, I'm excited that Wormhole is the one dealing with it. No, our goal is to kind of get V2 ossified. So I've got a pretty big blog post coming out that will explain sort of like the steps to V2 governance minimization, and but I mean that's not possible for arbitrary bridging, right? Just to be like, okay, cool, it's done, and walk away isn't possible to solve the problem that way. So, really, I feel like we've got a good bargain on that side because we just are focusing on these two chains. I think the one, this is a little bit less consensus in the stuff that I normally talk about in system design, but one of the things that I'm really excited about that will change with tBTC is, we've been looking into Wormhole Connect and like how can we actually make sure that anyone that comes to the tBTC dApp can immediately get to their chain, right? So if you can imagine, like, you should be able to show up with Bitcoin and Sol and be able to bridge to Solana. You should be able to bridge directly to Arbitrum, directly to Polygon. You shouldn't have to hold ETH. If you show up and you don't have gas, you shouldn't have to hold it. So we're just trying to get through what is like the best possible UX so that people can just like bring your Bitcoin, and we'll teach you the rest. Hell, maybe you don't even have a non-Bitcoin wallet. We can help you set up with that as well. So I think those are the changes you're really going to see us pushing. And the other one is redemptions, obviously. So as part of ossifying V2, we're finishing. So redemptions will be live shortly. I won't quote times now, but I'm really excited. And then finally, as MacLane alluded to earlier, BRC20s and inscriptions are also on the roadmap. But I think that the most important thing is just getting Bitcoin liquidity on the chains where it needs to be as quickly as possible.
Wait, threshold ordinals, tBTC ordinals, what are you talking about, Matt?
It's driving me crazy too. I love my NFTs.
There will be NFTs. Yes, it's going to be good. But I don't want to overpromise there, right? We need to finish bootstrapping one thing before we get too excited about the next thing. And so stoked about working together. And honestly, I'm as an engineer, I'm quite happy that we can focus on a more specific problem, and that we have a partner that's going to focus on these newer chains.
We're always squeezing you for alpha, Matt. So thank you for that. Let me pass this back over to Wormhole. I'd love for you to just let us know some upcoming goals and what are some milestones on the horizon.
Yeah, I think one thing I can just touch on to explain, Matt just referred to Wormhole Connect, and the problem we were really trying to solve with Wormhole Connect, which just launched last week, is really like what Matt said, is improving the user experience for the users of the applications that are leveraging Wormhole. Because historically, there's a lot of bridges. Portal is an example, Carrier is an example, who are independent teams who have leveraged Wormhole's protocol to build bridges on top of. And historically, if an application is for example, like in a tutorial or just an onboarding experience, telling the user how to get tokens to their application, they're having to send those users to an external site, which is like the portal bridge. That leads to user drop off. It leads to a kind of disjointed experience. And we wanted to solve that by bringing Wormhole inside of the application experience for developers. So because of Wormhole Connect and all the great work by our product team, people like tBTC can now use just a few lines of code and integrate this, essentially a widget, into their site so that users who are bridging tokens into their platform can do so without ever leaving, in this case, the tBTC website. So we're, over the next, the coming months, this is definitely, for some of the BD team, it's an initiative, and kind of a goal is just to grow the footprint of Wormhole Connect so that more applications can provide this strong user experience for their users. I don't know, Anthony, if you have anything else to add.
Yeah, just on that, I think the exciting thing for that, in addition to like obviously Threshold kind of leveraging it, is really the larger the network gets of projects that kind of integrate Wormhole Connect is just like an incredible distribution channel for tBTC. It just makes it like so like just tangible and close to like the application. And imagine if you're listing tBTC as an exchange or you accept it as collateral or whatever, it just allows you to just do that in one click. And you know, it's funny because where we're at in crypto, like that seems like saying that to someone in Web 2, they're like, what the hell is hard about that, right? But like in crypto, everything's hard. And when you do it on multiple different runtimes and all these different like different chains and that have all these different consensuses and all these different things, it is hard. And so like, you know, I think we're insanely excited to have a product like that. And again, now have an asset that every, you know, like that's so, we've already received so much inbound, you know, like kind of like demand for from all these different chains that aren't even just the L2s or side chains, but really like these diverse networks, like the Sui launch that just happened you know, kind of like 2 weeks ago or a week ago. You know, Wormhole is kind of like the canonical, you know, bridge provider for the Sui ecosystem, which is a very hyped launch of like a bunch of Facebook founders. Or you know, Facebook engineers that kind of made this chain, and you know, and also Aptos and others. Like, so I think the possibilities are endless, and we just look at tBTC as like growth, you know, just growth of like, you know, just a really powerful asset that can be used, and then Connect really being the thing that's going to like just get it everywhere.
That's incredible, Anthony. I'd close us out with one final question. What role do y'all think community involvement plays in the growth and success of tBTC, Threshold, and Wormhole? And how can listeners get more involved?
I mean, one of the super interesting things that, and frankly, like kind of somewhat unexpected things that happened with Threshold coming out of the new Cypher and Key merger is just how much more of an active role the community took in terms of helping to really bootstrap the DAO and creating, you know, the various sub DAOs or guilds, you know, focus on different functional roles within the network. New Cypher didn't have that same, like, I think amount of engagement from the community in pushing the project forward. And I mean, I can't speak to Keep, but I think that it's significantly increased, you know, in the Threshold era. And I think that's been obviously like a huge boon to the project in terms of just pushing forward with integrations, you know, partnerships with other projects, getting tBTC integrated in various DeFi protocols, building awareness of Threshold as a network, and then tBTC as an asset, and the various other projects and assets that fall under the Threshold umbrella. And then also like taking ownership of like things like incentives, which is a lot of operational overhead that the community has with. So I'm super keen to see that continue, and you know, hopefully there'll be even more interesting things that come out from the community. Actually, one thing worth mentioning is that Threshold USD was an idea and a project surfaced by community members, and obviously like we're optimistic that will be like a key component of the network in the future.
I gotta hop in just really quick. I just want to say I really like the community around tBTC. Like I just got to feel throughout the governance process of like writing that proposal and then kind of just being involved with like everybody who's been around like since like the questions we got, the pushback, like the engagement. Everything feels very close. Like everybody kind of feels like they're like really engaged with this project, and it feels like very like, and I feel like I've gotten to know it just through this like last like several, you know, like weeks and months that we've been working on this. So, you know, I think it's insanely important. In crypto, like everything's attention and it's an engagement, it's an involvement. And like, I think we see the most active, successful projects have a vibrant community. So like, there's no surprise that like having that is key. So just, you know, kudos and compliments to this. Like my first experience really with this org and kind of community, but it's been fucking awesome. So thank y'all.
That's incredible to hear you say, Anthony. And I have to reverberate that. I found the community to be, just not only essential, but, and Ash, I think you'll agree with me, everybody on the call will, it's really at the core. I originally joined the Keep Network, which felt like a family, being involved in learning crypto alongside, some of the most intelligent and incredibly influential people. But we really were like a family, and I don't think it's far of a comparison when we merged with New Cipher. It was like the Brady Bunch. It was like two amazing families coming together, and it's just been an incredible ride ever since. So, thank you all. I know Anthony had to jump off, and I just want to be respectful of everybody's time. Ash, I'll hand the mic back over to you if you want to close us out, and if we wanted to just any closing statements.
I really appreciate everybody joining us today. I'd like to offer Matt, MacLane, Dan, Brian, anybody. Do y'all have any last closing remarks? Matt, I'd love to hear when redemptions. I know you mentioned it, but what's the date? Come on, we love those.
Just watch mainnet closely, and you'll get the alpha. You'll see it a few weeks before this blog post. So yeah, watch carefully, especially next week, and you'll see where we're at.
Awesome. We'll keep an eye on GitHub. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope everybody has a great weekend. Join us on Discord. Follow the Wormhole account, the Threshold account. We're around. If you think of a question, drop it and we'll get an answer for you. Love you guys. Have a great weekend and a happy Friday.
Thanks, everyone.
Ash, Nico, John, thanks so much, guys. See ya.
Bitcoin everywhere.
Bitcoin everywhere. That's right, John.
I love it everywhere. Happy Friday, Ashley. Happy Friday, everybody on the panel. Thank you all so much.
Thanks, Nico. Great job.